Convention is on Sirius XM.
We believe in freedom!
With live in-person coverage on Progress 127.
The delegates are filing in.
And POTUS 124.
Tonight, very big night for the Democratic National Convention.
With additional coverage on Urban View 126. Plus all your favorite news channels. The 2024 Democratic National Convention is on Sirius XM.
You deserve the best. With the Sirius XM Platinum VIP plan, you can unlock the ultimate listening experience in up to 2 cars and stream anywhere with 2 app logins. Enjoy our greatest content, opportunities for live VIP experiences, and prioritized customer care. Plus, get access to over 5,000 audio and video concert recordings through nugs.net. Call 844-711-8800 and become a VIP. Offer details apply. Not available in Canada.
Turn to Flex 2K, a Sirius XM channel that takes you from 2000s bling.
And you bling like the Neptune sound.
Through the rise of trap.
Let's go, man.
Nothing but the hip-hop bangers that define the first 2 decades of the millennium. Flex 2K, Channel 49, and the Sirius XM app.
There you go now.
I think I'm recording.
Oh, let's see.
If you've been thinking about buying a home, you need to be in the zone, the home buying zone. You need a game plan to win in this great real estate market. The Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage has all your bases covered. Whether you're a first-time home buyer, purchasing your dream home, refinancing, consolidating debt, or even considering a reverse mortgage, contact the Big C team at Equity Zone Mortgage today. They have the lowest closing costs and they'll close your loan on time, guaranteed, or they'll pay your first mortgage payment. And they even have a 3.5% purchase down payment grant that can get you into a home with little money out of your pocket. It doesn't get more clutch than that, folks. Score big on the biggest purchase of your life. Call Equity Zone Mortgage today at 1-800-772-8624. That's 1-800-772-8624. Or apply online at equityzonemortgage.com and tell them Big C sent you as heard on the Big C Sports Podcast. License number 01.
Rondo de Borges, bonjour, vidi vidi vici. Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome to the show. My name is Charlton of Big C Sports. This is Big C Sports coming to you worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 network in the United States of America. And Big C Sports has been voted the #1 sports show in the universe, according to me and people who love the universe, and that would include you. What a beautiful day in the neighborhood. A beautiful day in the neighborhood. Won't you be my neighbor? Shut up! Fool, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm trying to listen to the Democratic convention. At 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching it on replay. Well, you don't got to get Big C Sports on replay because I come to you live every Monday through Friday at 6 o'clock p.m. worldwide on the Big C Sports Network, on the #1 sports show in the universe. I want to say on a beautiful Tuesday, August 20, 2024. Today's show is sponsored by your Northern California Cadillac dealers, home of the all-new Cadillac Escalade, the standard in the world. When you go by and test drive yours, tell them to sit you where the good Lord split you. And hopefully the good Lord didn't split you too wide. A lot of us don't like the split that the good Lord gave us, so we go in those fast food lines and we say, may I have a wide split, please? What do you want, sir? I would say, I want a wide split. What's a wide split, sir? Give me a number 5 with a Diet Coke. That's a wide split. If you got a wide split, you must quit. The late Johnny Crockett told us that. If you got a wide split, you must quit those fast food restaurants and start eating more Big C burgers. That's my story. And I'm taking with it. I'm one beautiful, intelligent black man, and I bring you Big C Sports Podcast over the universe. I'm telling you, I produce the show. I direct the topics. I broadcast all the shows. I do all the sound effects based on the platform provided by the agency. We should all use more laughter in our lives. And then the commercials are done. The stats are provided. I even do the storytelling. And then I do the play-by-play Curry for 3. Yes! Get the hole in your life. Do you believe in miracles? Yes, I believe in miracles. That's why I say when God wakes you up, that's a miracle. Even when God puts you to sleep, that's a miracle. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to say the show's uploaded to 29 podcast platforms out of New York City and streaming on 4 TV platforms: Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon Fire TV. And then I gotta tell you, I never missed a show since starting Big C Sports back in the day at Salem Media with the crew. And now we have people who miss practice. I'm not talking about the game. I'm talking about practice. The great Allen Iverson. Now we have people who miss practice. I'll not tolerate missing a show, if that makes sense to you. You know what I also won't tolerate? I won't tolerate missing paying homage to our veterans, our military veterans. Oftentimes, they do everything they can to keep us alive. And all we do is say, thank you for your service. I want to do more than thank you for your service. I want to give you a hotline you can call, and they will stand on their head to get you help. They really are experienced helping veterans and their loved ones get help. You know anybody going through issues, pick up the phone and call 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. If you're online, simply go to veteranscrisisline.net. That's veteranscrisisline.net. Or you can text. You know how a lot of young people, they want to text now. They even say text somebody hi. You can text 838-255. That's 838-255. And I want to say, when you do, you want to give them some praise, because we all need somebody to lean on. It is so good when somebody's leaning back. I love giving homage and praise to the Veterans Crisis Hotline, because we all know a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to say thank you to Xfinity, Comcast TV, and Comcast Spotlight Effect TV for presenting Big C Sports to the universe. And just like in Genesis 1:3, where God said, reparations now, reparations forever. And then God said, let there be light. And some of my pastor friends, they don't appreciate it. They say, Big C, that's blasphemy. God didn't say let reparations. I said, oh, yes, he did. You just got to see between the lines. God said reparations, which means do the right thing. If you want to do the right thing, then you got to say that reparations are ready for all people who want to do the right thing. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. You know, something happened with Big C Sports Podcast. I love what I'm doing with the show. I love also paying homage to our Veterans Crisis Hotline. Not only that, I love paying homage to the California Reparations Task Force, because I'm the only sports show in the universe that even knows that they exist. There's a lot of people. They will stand in line for the kickoff. They will stand in line for the first pitch, and they will stand in line for the tip-off. They want to yell, touchdown, home run, three-point play, old man Willie, he's going all the way. You know, like the Willie Letch letter taught us to do that. But I want to make sure I pay homage to people who are trying to do things now, either lead, follow, I get out of the way. That's my story with Big C Sports. Also want to talk about asset protection. You know, today I was at a bank today, and I was talking to them about asset protection. I said, you guys can give people loans, but you protect your assets when somebody happens to come after them, if that makes sense to you. They said, well, we don't do asset protection, but we will give you a loan. I said, if you give someone a loan, make sure they protect your assets, if that makes sense to you. And now that bank's willing to do work with the Big C team and the RDC team, if that makes sense to you. You got to give that some praise. I say give it praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I want to talk about some NFL football today. I'm even going to play some excerpts from NFL Network so you can see some of the updates that come with NFL football. Big C Sports Podcast, looking the team with the NFL Network. I have my own show, but I don't mind sharing my Kool-Aid with somebody else. But I would not share my cornbread. What Big C? I said I'll share my Kool-Aid, but I would not share my cornbread. You know, the great Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence, they were in a movie where somebody said, are you going to eat that cornbread? And Eddie Murphy said, man, get your own cornbread. And Martin Lawrence said, yeah, you can have my cornbread. And Eddie said to Martin, are you out of your fucking mind? Yeah, you can't have my cornbread, but I will share my Kool-Aid, if that makes sense. If you don't know what Kool-Aid is, and Donald Trump says you ain't black because I love Kool-Aid, but I realize there's too much sugar in some of that Kool-Aid growing up. Maybe that's why I'm hyper, all that sugar in that Kool-Aid that I was making. Now I got my own Kool-Aid, and it's sugar-free, if that makes sense to you, sugar-free. But it sure tastes like London. It sure tastes good, if that makes sense to you. I want to say with Big C Sports Podcast, I'm doing so many things that I'm so grateful for, and I thank God for that $100 million. I'm not joking. I haven't really slept much, because the August 19th was a special day for me. And it's a day that I always have a hard time sleeping. And my brother Todd knows what it means, but he said rise and shine, so I always rise and shine. But yesterday was a very difficult day, but I still believe in rising and shining. In fact, I talked to my sister Nettie for 4 hours last night. We were talking about so many things, and I just say I want to give God praise. Give God praise, praise, praise! You got to give God praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Everybody has their own way to go, their own way to swing. What did Two Live Crew saying? He said, you got to know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em, know when to walk away, and know when to run. You never count your money. When you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the deal is done. Big C, that was not Two Live Crew. That was Kenny Rogers. Okay, but they said the same thing. You always trying to correct me on air, man. Why don't you let me finish sometime? Some people say, Big C, out of y'all involved in mine. I'm trying to invite everybody to do a show with you. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But I do say, Ashe, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo. I believe in doing my Buddhist chant before I get into my infomercial, because I've taken on doing some things that Todd told me about 20 years ago. One of the most significant attributes of Nichiren Buddhism is its easily accessible practice of chanting Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo. This profound yet simple method of Buddhist practice is the perfect Buddhist teaching for the modern world, and practice is one of the 3 pillars of Nichiren Buddhism, the others being faith, the size of a grain of a mustard seed, and study, through which we can bring forth our innate Buddhahood. Practice entails 2 aspects: practice for oneself and practice for others. Chanting Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo, Nam Yo Renke Yo is a primary practice for oneself. May lightning strike! I love channeling my ancestry when I try to do things better, and I want to make sure I do everything better for Big C Sports Podcast. But I believe that faith comes by hearing, and I have a commercial that I'm doing, more like an infomercial, and you can pay attention because there might be a quiz when I'm done, if that makes sense to you. We have a guide to protect, preserve, and transfer wealth, Resource Development Consulting, Inc., in conjunction with the Law Office of Scott Thibodeau and the Law Office of Attorney George Jones. The Missing Link, Long-Term Care, Solutions by the Book, over 3 decades of experience helping seniors to get their benefits. Medicare and You is taking care of tomorrow. In California, it's called Medi-Cal. In other states, it's called Medicaid. Your family and spouse can avoid the spin down for nursing home costs. Find out your options. How? How do we find out, Big C? 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255. That's 800-273-8255 for the Veterans Crisis Hotline. And for Big C Sports, 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. 800-772-8624. Because our veterans need to know this stuff too. I'm going to tell you why. Our promise to you, we specialize to navigate and maximize long-term care benefits, protection of your assets without a spin down. All paperwork and communication with all government agencies are handled by a staff of entitlement specialists. That's important. Ongoing consulting to provide updates as necessary. Benefits covering skilled nursing facilities, prescription medications, medical equipment costs, and more. But not only that, now some people say I talk too slow, so I'm trying to talk a little bit faster because I'm trying to please everybody. But what I realize is you cannot say the right thing to the wrong person, and you cannot say the wrong thing to the right person. Protection of your assets, including your home, thereby allowing you to leave a legacy for your family. You know, I've been told I'm a Trekkie, and I also love Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back. Long ago, in a galaxy far, far away, the USS Starship Enterprise was on a 5-year mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life in new civilizations, and to boldly go where no man or woman has gone before. May lightning strike! What beats it ahead? The USS Starship Enterprise, they came into a galaxy called the Ouya Galaxy. Everybody looked like Jodeci, if that makes sense to you. Ouya! They all look like Jodeci, if that makes sense to you. But Captain Kirk said, that's a peculiar looking planet. It was big and black. And POTUS 45 said, build the wall! Build the wall! And POTUS 45 said, build the wall! And Captain Kirk said, well, there's no wall in space. And Spock said, yes, I would like to do the Vulcan mine mill. And Scotty said, yeah, we don't need to build a wall in space. And Captain Kirk said, however, I've never seen a blinking planet like that. It is peculiar. Maybe we should raise the shields. And Spock said, Captain, if you raise the shields, then I can't do the Vulcan mine mill. And Scotty said, yeah, Captain, he can't do the Vulcan mine mill if the shields are raised. And Captain Kirk said, Scotty, Spock, are you out in Vulcan mine? Raise the shields. And just as they were about to raise the shields, they heard, this is an order from Starfleet Command. This is Captain Darth Vader from the USS Death Star. We have joined forces with the Federation and the Empire. Do not raise those shields. It would be considered an act of war. And we do not want war. We come in peace, but do not raise those shields. Captain Kirk, Spock, Scotty, I am your father. Do as your father says. Do not raise those shields. And Captain said, well, how do you know our names? And Scotty said, yeah, how do you know our names? And Spock said, yeah, it's illogical. How do you know our names? And he said, I am your father. If you search your feelings, you know it to be true. I am your daddy. And do not question what your daddy says, that your days may be long. And Scotty said, well, my dad left a long time ago. And Captain Kirk said, yeah, I spoke to my dad yesterday. And Spock said, yeah, my daddy is green and you're black. You can't be my father. And at that time, Darth Vader said, do not raise those shields. It would be considered an act of war. In fact, I have an offer you can't refuse. And Captain Kirk said, I saw that movie, The Godfather. He said, no, not The Godfather. The Death Star. He said, I'm going to give you Luke Skywalker, Princess Leia, Obi-Wan Kenobi, Lando Calrissian, Chewbacca, Han Solo, and I got 2 robots called C-3PO and R2-D2. I'll even throw in that little green guy, but I can't remember his name, if that makes sense. And Captain Kirk said, well, I don't know if I want to trust you. Scotty, Spock, raise the shields on the audio Vulcan line. And just as they were about to raise the shields, the Death Star started to pulse, and Captain said, he said, light speed straight ahead, may lightning strike. And the Starship Enterprise got out of Dodge before the Death Star could fire on it. May lightning strike! Because Captain Kirk decided to trust. He trusted his instinct. Like the RDC team, we tell business owners, trust your instincts. Protection of your assets, if that makes sense to you. Avoid the state nightmare of debt brought by the government's estate recovery program called probate. Now, if you don't have a will and a trust, at the end of your life, the probate court, they will have a trust for you, and you will not like it. You get over that by calling the RDC team a one-time processing fee versus monthly insurance premiums for the rest of your life. 800-772-8624, 800-772-8624, and tell them Big C sent you. And that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I gotta tell you also, not only that, why should you have a trust? Because we have protection, insurance coverage required by law, the general liability, workers' compensation, lawyers specializing in living trust, Medicaid or Medi-Cal planning for long-term care. Avoid probate. We have life insurance policies, veterans benefits, aid, and attendance. What about your fixed assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. We protect your bank account, your checking account, your savings account, your money market account, your certificates of deposit, life insurance with cash values. We have fixed indexed annuities. What about variable assets, Big C? I'm glad you asked. We have real estate, qualified money, IRA, 401k protection, and other investments. You can avoid capital gains. For example, let's say you buy a house for $100,000. And then 1 year later, that house appreciates to $1 million. That's a $900,000 capital gains. You avoid the capital gains when you have your property in a trust. I got over 3 decades of experience with the RDC team. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. Attention business owners. You got to find out your other options to protect what your insurance does not cover. 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. And all you got to do is tell them Big C sent you. So again, the purpose of a trust, a living trust, you can plan now instead of the court invading later. Like Darth Vader. He said, do not raise your shields. Do not get a trust. You can learn how a trust can prevent your estate from being wiped out by nursing home expenses. And you can take advantage of the knowledge today by calling 800-772-8624. That's 800-772-8624. How a properly funded trust can avoid Medi-Cal recovery, create a new or replace an old outdated document, guardianship issues for your children, what happens without a living trust, provisions for your grandchildren, and the dangers of joint tenancy. There's a lot you can learn with the RDC team. And people say, well, Big C, why would we trust you? I got a friend. He does trust you. I'm glad you asked. We're the only, maybe one of the only asset protection companies in the universe that will give you our endorsements. A lot of people, they don't give you endorsements because they don't have any. Now, we have endorsements. We have the late James Gomez, who advised 4 governors in California and led change in California nursing homes. He also served on Golden One's board of directors. Did this thing for 21 years. He was also the CEO of California Association of Health Facilities. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have the late Robert Carlson. He was the top legal mind for CalPERS. He endorsed the RDC team. But not only that, we have George Jones, Esquire, the chairman of the California Black Chamber of Commerce, also the California Black Chamber of Commerce Foundation. He endorses the RDC team. We also have attorney Scott Thibodeau, one of the top estate planners in Northern California. Not only that, we have Leon Woods, resource development consulting, works with many of the top lobbyists in California. Not only that, we have Miss Cheryl Brown. She's the chair of the California Commission on Aging. She endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Mr. Ray De La Cruz. He's the CEO of Resource Development Consulting, been doing this thing for over 34 years. But not only that, we have Mr. Alex De La Cruz. He's the founder of American Veteran Benefits. He endorses the RDC team. But not only that, we have Charlton Curry, co-chair of the National Black Wall Street Project. But not only that, consultant with the RDC team. But not only that, the owner of Big C Sports Podcast Corporation, and I endorse the RDC team. But not only that, we have Double O. She's the payout committee for the National Black Wall Street Project. She's also a consultant for the RDC team. But not only that, she has her own economics awareness talk show called Let's Eat. And everybody loves to eat. You can Google it on Access Sacramento. And you got to give that praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And that's why I say the RDC team is to be considered. I'm talking to the NFL. I'm talking to the NBA. I'm talking to Major League Baseball. In fact, I ran into a guy from the Los Angeles Dodgers today. He's a retired player, but we said hi to each other. And now all's fair in love and war. I want him to let us do some asset protection. All's fair in love and war, Dodger Blue, if that makes sense to you. But I want to tell you, I just gave you asset protection. What'd you give us, Big C? I said asset protection. You don't want to run into the man that wrecks the buffet at the Hair Club. What did Eddie Murphy say? And he said, in Coming to America, he said, is this the man who wrecked the buffet at the Hair Club this morning? He said, is this the man who disabled an unmarked police car with a banana? He said, you must be the pride of your department in Coming to America. That wasn't Coming to America. That was Beverly Hills Cop, Big C. Okay, well, man, you always correct me. Are you out of your Vulcan mind? You don't have to correct me on live TV. Maybe I didn't take my vitamins this morning, but I know I'm going to get that part right. But I do want to say, I want to be a lot like the one-stop shop for business owners, individuals, and even banks. The RDC team with the Big C team, we have about 20 banks right now that are willing to do work with the Big C team. All I got to do is introduce him to Joe Montana. You know who he is. Joe Montana with the RDC team? I call him Joe Montana. All's fair in love and war. I want to say give it all praise. I say give it praise, praise, praise. I want to say before I get into some sports, you know I love reparations. I believe that a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to make sure that I don't waste my mind. Y'all gonna make me lose my mind. Up in here, the late great DMX, he didn't want to lose his mind, and I don't want to lose my mind. We want the real DMX. You can't have the real DMX. You're going to have the big CMX, if that makes sense, Jim. But I want to tell you something. I believe there's certain leadership in this country that either leads, follows, or gets out of the way. And when you try to lead, sometimes people don't like the way you talk. Some people say, Big C, you talk too much about politics. I say, well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. At the same time, I do want to make sure it's a one-stop shop for Big C Sports Podcast, not only for sports, but for reparations and for banking, for asset protection. There's a lot of things. And wait until you get a hold of my collard greens. Not the ones in the can, but the ones that taste like great grandma made them, where she put her foot in it. You know, there's great grandma, you put your foot in these collard greens. People say it's as a metaphor. But one time we got up early, and great grandma was putting her foot in those collard greens. We thought she was crushing grapes, but she was mixing up those collard greens, and we were tearing them up because they sure taste good. That's my story that I'm taking with it. Big C, you're making me hungry. Well, I'm hungry too. But while you're hungry, I want you to be hungry for reparations, like the Just Act. This is my own story. If you Google the Just Act, the JUST Act, United States Department of Justice with the German government, they made sure that the descendants of Holocaust got their reparations. You can Google it, the JUST Act. For any person that says, oh, we don't believe in no reparations, Google the Just Act, because the people get them as you're breathing. Are you breathing? There are people get them as you're breathing and you're afraid to breathe. Don't be afraid to breathe. The Just Act, Google it. I want to give praise to the California Reparations Task Force because a mind is a terrible thing to waste. I want to give praise to the inimitable Dr. Shirley Weber, the Secretary of the State of California. She worked with California Governor Gavin Newsom. They mandated a task force a few years ago, and they chose 9 attorneys to be a part of the task force. But I want to give them praise. I want to give praise to the chair, Kimmy Lamore. She's brilliant. She's an expert in reparative justice. Now, she photobombed Big C at the Reparations Task Force rally. I want her to photobomb the Big C Sports Podcast, too, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste, and I don't want to waste my mind. I do want to give her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Amos C. Brown, the Vice Chair of the California Reparations Task Force. He also came on the Big C Sports Podcast, and he said he believes in reparations, too. And last time I saw him, we were walking into a restaurant. I said, Mr. Brown. He said, Mr. Curry. I said, what are you doing, Mr. Brown? He said, I'm fixing to tear up some collard greens at Fixin's Restaurant owned by NBA great Kevin Johnson. I said, well, I hope you find some left because I just ate the last pot, and they might have to make you a new pot if that makes sense to you. I just finished tearing up some collard greens, and we all love collard greens if that makes sense to you. But he came on the Big C Sports Podcast about 3 months ago. I love giving him praise. I'm going to give praise to California Senator Stephen Bradford. He's brilliant. I love giving him praise. That brother is like Moses. When God told Moses in Exodus 10, he said, go down into Egypt and tell Pharaoh to let my people go. And Moses said, well, who did I tell him sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. And Moses went down and did his thing. It's like Senator Bradford. I heard he was praying on his knee and said, God, can you help me with reparations? And God came down to Senator Bradford. And he said, go down into the state capitol and tell the Senate and the legislators, I said, pass reparations. And Senator Bradford, rumor has it, said to God, he said, well, who do I tell him sent me? And God said, tell him I am sent you. And he went down and did his thing, and now they passed Senate Bill 1331, Senate Bill 1403, and Senate Bill 1050. It has another big vote coming up on August 31st in a few days in Denver Hills, California. I love giving him praise. He also sponsored Name, Image, and Likeness that helps college student athletes get paid on their name, image, and likeness. He also sponsored the Ebony Alert that helps law enforcement put the same amount of resources into finding missing black children as the Amber Alert puts into finding missing white children. I love giving him praise. I've met him several times in his office and also at task force meetings. I love giving him praise. I want to give praise to council member Monica Montgomery Stepp. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer. I love giving him praise. In fact, in communication with his office back and forth right now, I want to get Assembly member Reginald Jones Sawyer on the Big C Sports Podcast because he knows a mind is a terrible thing to waste. As I say I love giving him praise. Can't wait until he comes on the Big C Sports Podcast because he also believes in reparations. I want to give praise to Dr. Cheryl Grills. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to her attorney, Lisa Holder. She's brilliant. I love giving her praise. She's also an attorney that specializes in diversity, equity, and inclusion that Project 2025 wants to do away with. I love giving her praise. I want to give praise to Dr. Javon Scott Lewis, professor at California Berkeley. I love giving him praise. I also want to give praise to attorney Donald K. Tamaki, part of the California Reparations Task Force. Now, he's a Japanese American, and his ancestry got reparations. And he says he believes in reparations. And I do too, and so do good people. You know, you people, if you're good, you believe in repairing things that are broken, you got to believe in reparations. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. But in the meantime, instead of just listening to me, I want you to hear from the greatest speaker in the history of the universe. He said, a quote, he said, the arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. And sometimes it seems like the only people who have not gotten justice are descendants of chattel slavery. If you're a just person, you cannot tell me you love Dr. King, and liberty and justice for all. If you don't support what Dr. King supported, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. Listen with your own eyes and ears.
Martin Luther King, we had a conversation a couple days ago about handouts and how these right-wing memes, these Republican memes, have infiltrated the Democratic debate to suggest that, ending welfare as we know it, all those kind of things are somehow, great and noble things, when we're not dealing with the underlying problem, which is that there's no economic opportunity there because of insane trade policies and because of Reaganomics. And Martin Luther King spoke to this. Jim and Shane, this is clip number 4. Martin Luther King spoke to this sometime back in the early 60s. And I thought this was a really interesting quote. Here he is.
The problem. At the very same time that America refused to give the Negro any land, through an act of Congress, our government was giving away millions of acres of land in the West and the Midwest, which meant that it was willing to undergird its white peasants from Europe with an economic floor. But not only did they give the land, they built land-grant colleges with government money to teach them how to farm. Not only that, they provided county agents to further their expertise in farming. Not only that, they provided low interest rates in order that they could mechanize their farms. Not only that, today many of these people are receiving millions of dollars in federal subsidies not to farm, and they are the very people telling the black man that he ought to lift himself by his own bootstraps. And this is what we are faced with. And this is a reality. Now, when we come to Washington, in this campaign, we're coming to get our check.
From his speech, The Two Nations of Black America. And it's absolutely brilliant. And the next time some white person talks about, well, I pulled myself up by my bootstraps and my family did too, especially the Bundy boys. I mean, here's Martin Luther King, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., talking about how basically whites stole the West from the Indians with the and didn't just steal it. I mean, murdered them murdered the Indians in the process, and did not give any of these benefits to African Americans for 100 years in this country. It's a strong case for reparations or some variation on it, for rebuilding our cities, for doing right after having done wrong for so many centuries. It is a very, very strong case for that.
Reparations now, reparations forever. I love reparations. I love hearing Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. speak. The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. I also want to take some time to say I love the conversations that is happening for Big C Sports Podcast. There are a lot of things that are happening that I really want to be a part of, and I want to pay homage to people who are opening doors for Big C Sports Podcast. I want to play some excerpts from the NFL Network on Big C Sports.
Per season in fantasy note, on Deshaun Watson, in his final 3 seasons with the Texans, Watson averaged 341 points per season in PPR leagues. That was second behind only Patrick Mahomes among quarterbacks. Since he got to the Browns, he's averaged just 86 points per season, which ranks outside the top 40 quarterbacks. Head coach Kevin Stefanski was asked if Watson, who was cleared for contact last week, will play in the team's final preseason game this week.
Yeah, so all of our starters should expect to play, and then we'll determine who does or doesn't, how many plays they do. Like I told you guys, in particular with Deshaun, I want to take in all the information this week and really make a final determination later in the week.
Do you feel the need for him to take a hit before you get to week 1?
I don't. Yeah, I don't. He's played a lot of football. He's been tackled a lot, so but he's confident.
All right, right, so Stefanski doesn't think he needs to take a hit, but do you think Watson, RC, needs some preseason action before the season starts so soon?
Laura, I don't know what he needs right now, but he needs to play well when this season starts. Deshaun Watson hasn't been his former self or his Houston Texans form when he has been starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. And now, so it's trying to figure out who is Deshaun Watson? Can Deshaun Watson ever return to form? Because if he doesn't in this season, when is it going to happen, Laura? And part of wondering whether or not he'll play in this preseason game, whether or not Deshaun Watson will be available, is the fact that he's been unavailable for this team, the team that gave him $230 million guaranteed. So in a normal situation, a quarterback coming off of a shoulder surgery that has been to the heights that Deshaun Watson has been to, I am not concerned. A quarterback that has taken that many hits. But when you look at his activity or lack of activity since 2019, 2020, when you look at the lack of great play from Deshaun Watson and what this team was able to accomplish without him and with Joe Flacco last year, he absolutely needs to play, and he needs to play well, because this is a Super Bowl caliber roster, and you thought you traded for a Super Bowl caliber quarterback.
Well, Joe Flacco is gone, and Deshaun Watson, by all accounts, RC, has looked pretty good this summer, but it would be, I think, somewhat disconcerting if he didn't play at all in the preseason and Kevin Stefanski walked it back the way he seems to be doing now, going from saying he was going to play last week in the final preseason game to now not being certain. So I think that has to raise some questions. But the fact of the matter is, this team has so much riding on Deshaun Watson this season. They gave him more guaranteed money than any player ever has gotten in NFL history, and so far there have been a lot of injuries, and the talent's still there, but they need to see the talent, and you'd like to see him in the preseason finale to see that he's going to be ready for opening day against the Dallas Cowboys in Cleveland in Tom Brady's first broadcast. But right now, there are some question marks, despite the fact that, by all accounts, Deshaun has looked pretty good during training camp this summer.
Justin Herbert returned to practice after missing 2 weeks with an injury to his plantar fascia that left him in a boot. You see him out there playing. And head coach Jim Harbaugh described the experience of seeing Herbert back on the field as only Harbaugh could.
Felt like the music should be playing. I even thought I thought I heard music. Voices of Angels, maybe. It felt great. It felt great.
How much of just a morale boost or excitement is that for the entire team?
I was excited. I think they would be excited too. I don't know if they heard the Angels sing like I did, but they might have.
Good morning, everybody.
It's when he laughs at his own joke for me.
Yeah, I think because he realizes how ridiculous it sounds sometimes, but he means everything from the bottom of his heart.
He was searching for those angels. All right, what's going on there in L.A.? Justin Herbert in that offense specifically?
I think they're going to take a step back from putting everything on Justin Herbert's shoulders. We've seen with Kellen Moore or the previous regime of offensive coaches, everything expected of Justin Herbert, because you had Keenan Allen, because you had Mike Williams, because you had Joshua Palmer. They're going to take a step back and focus on physicality. They're going to focus on the run game. This is Jim Harbaugh and Greg Roman. If they ain't going to do nothing, they're going to hit you in your mouth. And I think that allows a guy like Justin Herbert to work his way back into playing football, but also work his way back into understanding and controlling this offense. For Justin Herbert, who is immensely talented, with all the weight on his shoulders of the entire franchise, it'll be good to say, Justin, you don't have to go win it on every single throw. You can work your way into the game, understanding when to step up and make plays, use your legs, get you outside of the pocket, but start with the physical run game with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards first.
I mean, anytime anyone's been able to employ that physical run game, I don't think it's been bad for an offense.
That's not a bad deal.
It can be great for a quarterback. And since Herbert entered the league in 2020, the only quarterbacks who have more fantasy points are Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. But he's got a much different assortment of weapons this year, as RC pointed out. Bill Barnwell ranked the Chargers running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends as the worst skill group in the NFL back in July. So let's live in a fantasy world here as Field Yates and Damian Woody jump back in here. D-Wood, how do you assess Herbert's fantasy value in this Harbaugh system?
Yeah, I mean, listen, Laura, we're still in a passing league, so I think the volume is going to be there. But RC was right in when he talked about the mentality of the Los Angeles Chargers. This is going to be a punch-him-in-the-mouth run type of football team first. The reason that Jim Harbaugh is there is because too many times when we saw with Justin Herbert, he was getting hit. The run game wasn't there. That's why he's there. That's why Greg Roman is there to kind of implement their will. And you're going to see that. You actually could see that by the moves that they made in the offseason, whether it was drafting a lineman like Joe Alden with the 5th pick. Some of the tight ends that they brought in who are, predominantly blocking tight ends. They want to impose their will on people, but he's still going to, and I'm talking about Justin Herbert, he's still going to pass the ball around a lot on the field.
Yeah, Laura, it is certainly a passing league, so there's going to be some volume there for Justin Herbert. But take a look at all of the signs that matter in the world of fantasy football here. This is a run-heavier offense. This is a team that this offseason traded away Keenan Allen to the Bears, cut Mike Williams, and then had this opportunity with the 5th overall pick in the draft to take a player in Malik Nabers, who I and many other in the draft community felt like was right there neck and neck with Marvin Harrison Jr., and they instead took an offensive tackle who could be an excellent player, by the way, in Joe Alt. Justin Herbert in this offense certainly wants to be an offense that grounds and pounds. You look at this surrounding crew right now, by the way, and there's not a single player on the Los Angeles Chargers roster that, as of right now, I view as a week 1 starting player at his position. I have Justin Herbert outside my top 12 at quarterbacks. You saw the consensus rank of quarterback 18, Laura. There are simply way too many higher upside options, including, by the way, the first 2 players in this year's draft, Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels.
Wow, yeah, so not a starter in the fantasy world. Also, Ladd McConkey, you saw him at the top of the list there. He was the only one that was actually getting a high ranking. All right, what do you think when you hear that about this Chargers weaponry?
First off, and I know people get mad when I do stuff like this sometimes, I met Ladd McConkey this offseason.
Yeah.
And I walked up to him and I told him that I worked extremely hard during the draft process to give him a black man comp. I said, I refuse to compare you to Wes Walker. I refuse to compare you to Danny Amendola because you are not like any of those players. And I was like, you remind me of a former teammate, Emmanuel Sanders. And he goes, I like that one. When you think about what this team is now, you're asking Quentin Johnson to be a better player than he was last year. Eliminate the drops, become an impact guy with 50-50 catches. I believe he can do that, but he has to get out of his own head. So if you're going to be dependent on a guy like Ladd McConkey, the run game has to be strong. Also, opportunities to use Joshua Palmer in a way that you hadn't in years past, because I believe when he's gotten opportunities to make plays, he's come through for the Los Angeles Chargers.
You've listened to NFL updates on Big C Sports. Reparations now, reparations forever. That's Big C style with the NFL update. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Just imagine what it's like when the NFL players and the owners and the organizations start talking about reparations for descendants of chattel slavery. I call it the Just Act Part 2. The Just Act Part 2. We did not get the Homestead Act. We did not get the GI Bill, but we will get reparations. That's my story. And I'm sticking with it. I got some NFL update, Big C style. I got to say that Tampa Bay Buccaneers touchdown. Baker Mayfield on his division. Everybody wants to hit the NFC South. We will see if touchdown Baker Mayfield can help the Buccaneers claim the NFC South. I got touchdown Josh Allen, quarterback Buffalo Bills with his current contract. Despite APY rankings, he's got no problem with where he is. He believes they're going to have a stellar year in the city of Buffalo. For the Pittsburgh Steelers, Arthur Smith cautions overreacting to the offensive woes of preseason. You don't want to distort reality. They don't want to see everything, all of their playbook in preseason. So sometimes you'll see teams that are really good, not playing very well in the preseason. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores says that Tua Tagovailoa's comments were not positive for me, and wishes the quarterback nothing but the best. It's always best when someone criticizes to have the person being criticized in the same room. Even a coin has two sides to the story, if that makes sense to you. I got some more news on Big C's NFL talks with the Cowboys. Carl Lawson says he has a lot left in his tank, and he doesn't want to empty his tank, and you'll see what happens when he gets into the action the next time. Also, the next woman up for President of the United States, Kamala Harris. But the next woman up for NFL is Michelle Zhao, member of the NFL Diversity in Sports Medicine Pipeline Initiative in 2024 class. Really do appreciate the NFL opening more doors for everybody. NFL's fantasy football fact or fiction. The great touchdown, Justin Jefferson. He's still the top tier wide receiver with Sam Darnold. We'll see if they can make some noise for the NFL football season. I believe in Big C Sports Podcast talking about reparations and also diversity and inclusion in NFL football. And I can't wait until the league does more about that the way that I'm doing with Big C Sports Podcast. I want to say I have some of the top players that I want to bring to your attention for the NFL, and it's just my opinion, and everybody has an opinion. I want to say I got the autumn wind was a Raider, like Darth Vader, and dressed in silver and black. I got number 10, the great Max Crosby, for the Las Vegas Raiders defensive end. One would be hard-pressed to find a more desirable pass rusher than Crosby, whose refusal to give up on plays and his willingness to leave it all out on the field was best exemplified in 2023. Despite a knee injury suffered in Week 2, which required off-season surgery, the Raiders defensive end enjoyed a career-best season. He had 14.5 sacks, 50 QB pressures, 31 QB hits, 23 tackles for loss, and 90 tackles to earn him a third consecutive Pro Bowl for the Raiders. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got number 9 in Big C's top NFL players. I got Travis Kelce, touchdown Travis Kelce for the Kansas City Chiefs, defending NFL Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs, the tight end. Now, touchdown Travis Kelce, he reached new heights of popularity in 2023, but that kind of recognition among his peers had been a constant in the top 100. The Kansas City Chiefs star is the highest-ranked tight end for the 4th consecutive year, despite falling 16 yards short of his 8th straight 1,000-yard season in 2023. He had 93 receptions for 984 yards. Would have touchdown Patrick Mahomes. Could have gotten him just 2 more passes. He would have been over 1,000 yards again. He had 5 touchdowns in 15 games. A sure-handed model of consistency. Touchdown Travis Kelce was a force to be reckoned with, like the autumn wind was a chief. During the Kansas City Chiefs' successful run at back-to-back Super Bowls, catching 32 balls, 355 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Those numbers are great for touchdown Travis Kelce. Those numbers support Kelce, his charge toward touchdown Jerry Rice, all-time postseason receiving records of 2,245 yards, 151 receptions, 22 touchdowns. The 34-year-old knocked one off the block in 2003, 165 receptions. He's going to have another great year this year because that's just what he does. I got number 8 on Big C's NFL list is T.J. Watt for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Outside linebacker T.J. Watt, he returned with a vengeance in 2023. He followed an injury-riddled season that temporarily put him on pause. I'll say on pause. And the Steelers star pass rusher, no, he's not Mean Joe Green, but he resumed it in remarkable fashion, leading the league with 19 sacks. The 3rd time in 4 seasons he's been the NFL sack champion. Watt also produced 50 QB pressures, 36 QB hits, and forced 4 fumbles, 1 interception, 3 fumble recoveries, and a defensive touchdown in his 4th All-Pro campaign. You got to know he's going to have another great year in 2024. I got number 7 in Big C's NFL talent, Trent Williams, the San Francisco 49ers offensive tackle. Bang Bang 90 game. It's a lot like aging like fine wine. Williams is the highest ranking offensive lineman in the top 100 at 36 years old. He anchors head coach Kyle Shanahan's potent offense the past 3 seasons. Williams has a great skill set as an elite run and pass blocking left tackle. He renders the complex scheme into a seemingly painless process. In 2023, the 11-time Pro Bowler, he earned the 2nd highest run blocking grade in the NFL. And while helping to pave the way for the league's rushing champion and touchdown Chris McCaffrey, you know he's going to have another stellar year for the San Francisco 49ers. Bang Bang 90 game. I got number 6 in Big C's top players, the NFL defending Kansas City Chiefs Super Bowl champion Chris Jones for the Chiefs defensive end. Now, Jones has been long a focal point for the offensive coordinator's game planning against a defense that has supported Kansas City's ongoing dynasty. In 2023, the 30-year-old, he captained the youngest defense in the league to back-to-back Super Bowls, collecting 10.5 sacks, oftentimes being double-teamed, 39 QB pressures, 29 QB hits, and 13 tackles for loss. What makes him so great? He's impressive, has a great motor, and he never seems to slow down, even though we know he slows down because he's always being double-teamed. I still got him at number 6 in Big C's NFL stats. I got number 5, Myles Garrett for Cleveland. This is for you, the defensive end. The appreciation and acclaim for Garrett continues as the top 100 ranking defenders. Cleveland's daunting edge rusher was invincible through the first 11 games. He had 13 of his 14 sacks during the span, that included a showcase of dominance against the Colts. In Week 7, a shoulder injury halted Garrett's sack pace, but he even has a burden of a presence for any offensive coordinator. This guy, you got to block him. You got to know where he is at all times. It was a major factor in the Browns' number 1 ranked defense because of the attention that he pulls. He's amazing. Garrett still managed to earn the top 10 finish in sacks. He had 14. In QB hits, he had 30. In QB pressures, he had 37. And tackles for loss, 17. And a forced fumble 4 times by season's end, if that makes sense to you. I got number 4 in Big C's NFL Power Rankings. Now, you may agree or disagree, but I'm going to tell you my thoughts, and I don't expect everybody to agree with me. That's their story. They can do what they want to do. I got Tyreek Hill from the Miami Dolphins, the wide receiver. Hill became the first wide receiver to grace the number 1 spot in the top 100 14-year history, following a spectacular season when he flirted with Calvin Johnson's single-season receiving record of 1,964 yards. He led the league with 1,799 receiving yards on 119 receptions, 13 receiving touchdowns, but a late season injury to his ankle, it hampered his ascension. But I'm telling you, he's someone you got to keep an eye on. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I got another great player. I got Superman Lamar Jackson. It's a bird. It's a plane. No, I'm Superman. Man, lightning strike. The Baltimore Ravens quarterback, Superman Lamar Jackson, one of the most electrifying dual threats in the quarterback game, and he's never, ever really failed to steal the hearts and minds of his own teammates. He had a bad game in the AFC Championship game last year, but you can't blame it all on him. But he gets the praise. He also gets the blame. Now, Jackson's arm was relied upon more than ever in 2023 as he registered career-high completions. He had 307 pass completions. He had 457 attempts. He completed 67% of his passes, 3,678 yards, and provided an efficient touchdown-to-interception ratio of 24-7. But Baltimore's star playmaker continued to have a little bit of struggle in the playoffs against the Kansas City Chiefs. But at the same time, he's a great playmaker, continued to marvel with his impulsive back, leading all quarterbacks with 821 rushing yards, 5.5 yards per carry, and 5 touchdowns as he powered the Baltimore Ravens to an NFL best 13 wins. My goodness. He's a great player, but I want to see him get over the top. He got to get to a Super Bowl. That's my opinion, and I'm going to stick with it, but I love the way Superman Lamar Jackson plays. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Bang Bang Night again in Deepdale Hills, California. I got the great touchdown Christian McCaffrey for the San Francisco 49ers. The running back McCaffrey, he shined during his first full season in San Francisco, the NFL's rushing champion, 1,459 yards, leading the league in yards from scrimmage. He had 2,023 yards. Run, McCaffrey, run. Run, McCaffrey, run. In touchdowns, he had 21 touchdowns in 16 games. Touchdown, McCaffrey! In 16 games played, the 2-time All-Pro running back was the fireball with Kyle Shanahan's potent offense and opposing defenses. They had to figure out, do you stop McCaffrey? Do you stop Deebo Samuel? Do you stop Brandon Ayuk? McCaffrey's always a north-south runner. He led the NFL in yards after contact with 949 yards. Amazing. He's a great player. He became the first 49ers players since touchdown Jerry Rice in 1993 to win Offensive Player of the Year, and his image will grace the cover of Madden 2025. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but he sure can run the ball. He's a north-south runner. Now I'm going to tell you the number 1 spot in Big C's NFL universe for NFL football players. I just want them all to start champion reparations. I got touchdown with Patrick Mahomes. Up to the line of scrimmage, 4 wideouts, 5-man front. The snap, rolling to his right, rolling, throws downfield, and it's caught! Caught for the touchdown! Touchdown! Kansas City! Patrick Mahomes, 50 yards to Big C! I think he's going to get that more this year. Touchdown, Patrick Mahomes. The 2-time holder of the top 100, the number 1 spot. He's chasing himself, it seems. You ever see the cat chase himself? That's like touchdown Patrick Mahomes. He's only chasing himself in a league of his own. The 2-time MVP, 4,183 passing yards, 27 touchdowns this past season. It neared his career low totals of 2019. But those figures would be the magnum opposite of many NFL quarterbacks of today and yesterday, Mahomes preserves through a trying season that was well documented with the struggles of his wide receiving core and saw him toss the career at 14 interceptions, which is not good. You throw 14 interceptions and you're still the best team in the NFL? It's not all on him. Sometimes the receivers don't come back to the ball. All's fair in love and war. Like dancing, sometimes you step on somebody's toes. But touchdown, Patrick Mahomes. He corrected his playoff experience, and they got them to the Super Bowl again, where they beat the San Francisco 49ers. They did it in overtime. He led the Chiefs to a third Lombardi trophy, winning his third Super Bowl MVP within a 5-year span. Perhaps Mahomes' latest campaign was more impressive under the right context. The 28-year-old is already on pace to win another Super Bowl, at least one in the next 2 years. That's my story. I'm sticking with it. The quarterback game has never been better, and there's no telling where he will rank when it's all said and done. Well, that's Big C's thought. Touchdown! Chiefs! That's my story. I'm sticking with it. Well, I want to tell you, I love bringing you Big C Sports Podcast. Big C Sports Podcast. I'm hoping Nam Yoho Renke Yo, Nam Yoho Renke Yo, Nam Yoho Renke Yo. $100 million. I want to win that mega million tonight. You know, I'd have as much money as touchdown Patrick Mahomes. I think he's tied for $500 million. All fair level war. Well, that's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I bring you Big C's NFL players that I think are some of the top players in the NFL universe. I also talk about reparations. I hope that the NFL players start championing reparations. I also talked about the REC team with asset protection, as I talked to a former LA Dodger today about asset protection. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. As I always tell you on every Big C Sports Podcast, if you're going to drink, don't drive. If you're going to drive, don't drink. Because mothers against drunk drivers are mad, and fathers against drunk drivers are mad. It's one of the easiest things not to do. You can walk it off, you can sleep it off, but don't let someone you love get behind the wheel of a car and start driving after they've been drinking. The life you save may be your own, or someone you love, or someone who loves you, or someone loved by somebody else. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. My beautiful mother always says there's never, ever an excuse for racism or domestic violence. No man, woman, or child should ever go through that crap on their own. If you're going through that crap, you need more leader in your life. Leader is an acronym for love is the answer. Because if somebody loves you, they don't hit you, only hit you because you make me mad. If somebody loves you, they don't kick you, only kick you because you make me mad. If someone loves you, they don't slap you, only slap you because you make me mad. If someone loves you, they don't choke you out, only choke you out because you make me mad. Pick up the phone and call 911, because no man, woman, or child deserves to have the crap beat out of them by some a-hole. Call 911. Things change when the police show up. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I'll not tolerate domestic violence, and you shouldn't either. Call 911. People change when the police show up. I want to pay homage to my beautiful family legacy, as I do on every Big C Sports Podcast. I want to start on my mother's side. My great-grandparents called them Mama and Pop. They were beautiful, loving, kind people, always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. My great-grandmother loved us very much, but she hated when we come outside from playing without washing our dirty hands and grab that bucket of collard greens and say, "Oh, great-grandma, I love these collard greens. I'm hungry now." She said, "Boy, go wash your hands and get a plate. Don't come outside from playing and grab those collard greens." I said, "Great-grandma, I don't need a plate. I'm hungry now." She said, "Go wash your nasty hands and get a plate, baby." And she was always right. It tastes better when you have clean hands, but sometimes dirt in your fingers tastes good too. Always making sure lots of love in the family and lots of food in the belly. Then my great-grandfather Pop, former military man and former Negro League baseball player, always telling us how the boy, didn't I tell you, you measure twice, you hammer once. Because every time he had a fence put together, sometimes it'd be like 3 or 4 feet short. He said, always measure twice and hammer once. Sometimes we be in a hurry, we hammer once and measure after. And that makes sense, dear. I do that fence. But a great man. And then I love my grandparents, Mud Deer and Hezekiah. They were seers. They could oftentimes look at a person and tell you a lot about their past, present, and their future. They still help me to this day. I love them with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then I can always depend on my mama, the most beautiful mama in the history of the universe. Started a Head Start program, a food program, and also coaching all boys Little League baseball team to the championship of the universe. Always saying, rise and shine. The best person I ever met in my life. Mama, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. God, you hear my praise. You hear my praise. Do it now, God. You hear my praise. Mama, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Always have, always will. On my father's side, my grandparents, Albert and Alberta Curry, they were pastors. They had 3 churches. They owned 2 gas stations in Oakland. They also owned 40 acres of land. I was 8 years old, walking down the hallway about 10 o'clock at night. I felt somebody touch me in my forehead. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, what are you doing, Grandma? It's 10 o'clock at night. You normally go to bed at 8:30. She said, "What are you doing, young man? Going to get some cookies?" I said, "Cookies is baby crap. What I'm doing, Grandma, I'm going to get my reparations." But a couple of cookies wouldn't hurt. It's been a long wait. She said, "There's something about your voice. I love hearing you speak." And now she hears me screaming on 29 podcast applications all over the universe. Streaming on 4 TV platforms. I love my grandparents with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful father, former United States Air Force fighter pilot, chief mechanic, always making sure that planes can fly high so we can all stay safe at night. My dad always saying, develop your mind to its highest extent. A voracious reader. I love my dad with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. Could fix anything. And then my beautiful brother Todd with that bombastic voice. Sound like thunder and lightning when Todd would speak. He always said, go forward, don't look back, because you don't have much backside in the first place. I said, I love my backside, Todd. He said my backside wasn't big enough, and that's why I've been doing my squats. He had a wide stance. He said my stance wasn't as wide as his, and I said I'm okay with that, Todd. You know, as much as we love Denzel Washington in the movie Malcolm X, we love the movie Pulp Fiction. There's a scene with the great Sam Jackson, John Travolta, Ben Rames, and Bruce Willis before the big fight. Ben Rames told Bruce Willis, he said, sit your butt down. He said, take this money and know that your butt goes down in the 5th round. Say that, Smith! And Bruce Willis said, okay, my butt goes down in the 5th round. And Ben Rames said what a lot of football players say to each other. He said, that stinging sensation you're feeling, well, that's just pride. Blubbing with you. And he said what a lot of coaches are going to say to players when they cut them. They say, blood pride. They say pride only hurts. It never helps. He said, one day you're going to thank Uncle Marsalis when you're chilling in the Caribbean. Now take this money and do what I told you to do. We know that Bruce Willis didn't take the dive and he lost his Elliott privileges. That's my story. I'm thinking with it. Todd, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful daughter, Daisy, the most beautiful daughter in the history of the universe. College graduate, 2 degrees with honors in 3.5 years from a major university. Daisy helped set up the very first interview for Big C Sports Podcast. Back in the days of Salem Media, it became the first time in the history of the United States that NFL Monday Night Football started broadcasting live on the Wall Street Business Network. They had never done that before. They've been known to go to ESPN. But because of 2 black men in the crew, we brought them where they made budget for the first time in 44 years in 1 month. They called us the Dream Team. I still got the letter from station management. Daisy, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. None! Always trust God. You have a great future. I always am very proud of you. I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And then my beautiful, handsome son, Malcolm, the most handsome son in the history of the universe. College graduate, very smart, erudite, a good man. Malcolm, you can be anything you want to be. Always trust God, Isaiah 54:17, that no weapon formed against you will prosper. You know, Malcolm helped me save trees. I used to always get the newspaper and look up stats for Big C Sports Podcast for players and teams. And one day Malcolm said, Dad, why don't you just Google it? And a light bulb went off. I've been Googling ever since. And now I'm on 29 podcast platforms and streaming on 4 TV platforms, Xfinity, Comcast TV, Apple TV, Roku TV, and Amazon and Fire TV. And now more talk about doing more work with other networks. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. One day Malcolm said, Dad, you want to see Big C Sports on TV? I said, sure. He said, pick up the remote, aim it at the TV, and say, play Big C Sports. You'll see your show come up. That's before it was even on the air. Now streaming on 4 TV platforms. Malcolm, I love you with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. You can be anything you want to be. Always trust God. Always trust God. Always give God praise. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. And then Big C, with all that wealth of knowledge over the years, always saying you got to believe, you got to believe, you got to believe. Like my great-grandparents coming out of that barn saying, let's get ready to rumble. I love to say welcome to the show. As we nominated Big C Sports Podcast, you see, I have no scripts. I have no 3-way teleprompters. I have no producer in my ear. All I have is that gland, and the brain called the pineal gland. The ancients called it the third eye. Listen, that's how you talk to God, and that's why I scream so loud. God, you hear my praise. You hear my praise, praise, praise. I chant Nam Yo Renge Yo, Nam Yo Renge Yo, Nam Yo Renge Yo. I love doing that. It is even good for my stomach because I don't have to do as many sit-ups. Well, that's my story. I'm sticking with it. I always do this part on the show. Back in the day, there's a man known by the name of Drew Boudini Brown. He's known as Muhammad Ali's right-hand man. He would always tell Ali, he said, you float like a butterfly and you sting like a bee. Rumble, young man, rumble. He said, with all you got to use, how can you lose? Ali said, I'm so pretty, I can't possibly be beat. And every time I listen to Big C Sports, I want to champion reparations at last. Reparations at last. Thank God Almighty. Reparations at last. That's my story, and I'm sticking with it. I always pay homage to America's 16th president and the inimitable Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. When they said reparations now, reparations forever. Say it 2 more times. Reparations now, reparations forever. Say it like your heart, mind, body, and soul believes in it. Reparations now, reparations forever. I thank you, I appreciate you, and I hope that you have a super fantastic day.